Mr. Verducci?
Here.
Mr. Galaducci?
Here.
Mrs. Maroli? Here. Mr. Ferry?
Here.
Mr. Franchek?
Here.
Mr. Henderson's absent. Mr. Sarasik?
Here.
Mayor Copeland? Here. And I'm Joe Cower.
Okay. Review and discuss the proposed 2026 budget. The floor is yours, Mr. Cower.
I'd like
Fine job, by the way.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very nice.
Especially since this is like your Christmas.
Yeah, but we do have some public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anybody on the public comment?
I did. I will be
Mr. Blasio, what would you like to say?
I would like to say thank you to all of you for your service and for your efforts, especially to Mr. Verducci for his expertise and what he has brought to our community for all of these years. And I appreciate what he has done and what others have done here. And Justine, Jason, I'm sorry that Bill Henderson is not here at the moment. And I just wanted to thank all of you for the efforts that you're going through today, that you've been going through, because it's not easy to keep a budget balance. And while Joe Cower does an admirable job, ultimately the hard decisions rest with you. And so I wanted to say thank you, and that I appreciate everything that you're doing tonight. And I look forward to reading online what the budget is, because that's a really cool thing about technology now. You can see it without. So I look forward to that. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Pat. All right, Christmas for Joe Cower.
All right, so let's dive into it. So in front of you in your packet, you had the budget report. That was the fine book, the large legal size spreadsheets, a latest budget to actual from our financial software. So let's go quick just to the actual budget report. So if you go to page 4, it's the start of the budget message. The 2026 budget for all funds combined is $7.5 million. General fund is $3.9 million. Sanitary sewer funds $2.3. Garbage fund $687,000. Highway aid fund, which is liquid fuels, $139,000. Capital improvement fund $438,000. For the general fund, operational costs of the borough between 2025 and 2026 are increasing modestly by a little under $90,000 compared to this fiscal year. But this is following very numerous systematic factors that keep us in line. I'll get into it more when we get into the general fund, but insurance costs, employee wages, and utilities, just those 3 line items are increases in excess of $116,000. So you could see the cuts that I did to have a balanced budget when you just know that those 3 numbers are going up $116,000, but when you compare the 2 budgets, it's only $89,000. We were fortunate where the proposed budget before you doesn't call for any tax increase. This would be the 9th consecutive year with the same millage rate. So that's pretty admirable. It is worth noting that if by chance we do get hit with very high, again, like another large insurance and utility increases going into 27, there may be a need for a nominal tax increase. But I was joking with someone today is that I feel like every year I go, I think next year may be the year for a tax increase. And we're able to live within our means, tighten the belt, and move on. The first part of our budget message is essentially kind of a snapshot as a year in review. 2005, when you look at it, it was a pretty impressive year for us. The borough won the recognition from the State Boroughs Association for our newsletter. We were recognized again by the county as a banner community. We hosted the 4th year of the outdoor sculpture exhibition. We created a shade tree commission. We did another community tree planting over the weekend. Day on the Avenue continues to be operating with a slight profit that we created a community chest to help out the library and the EMS here in the borough. We held 2 household hazardous waste collection events that were successful. Continuing implementation of the comprehensive plan and the active transportation plan. We advanced a project that was grant funded to create the downtown zoning district, and that's scheduled potentially for adoption next Monday. Public safety wise, the police chief retired this year, and we hired a new police chief who replaced the police cruiser. The police department came up with a new motto, police and community together, and is branded on all the cruisers. some infrastructure improvements in line with the active transportation plan, like I was saying. The Gregg Avenue Stairs and Bicycle Run project was completed, and we were fortunate that that was able to be 100% grant funded. We were able to work with PennDOT and partner with them to do the bump outs on Bank Street at Winfield and Gregg. The 2025 road program was completed last month, and we were able to resurface many roads. On the agenda coming up Monday, the budget for that project came in under budget, $93,000. So it worked out very good to not hit the capital project fund, very much to allow for continued big investments into road paving each year. It was interesting, a nice little government thing with changing a street opening ordinance 6 years ago, requiring utilities to go curb to curb. Working with People's Gas earlier this year, they replaced service lines on Elm, Elizabeth, Grandview. 2 of those asphalt streets got completely repaved. Degradation fees actually reimbursed the borough almost $11,000. And then the brick roads, it was kind of the nicest rehab we had on a brick road since probably going back to when mayor was the mayor, you know? So it'd be nice that they look at another brick road for gas.
Talking about doing that next year?
There was talk on their part for Chestnut Street, but I haven't seen it. I'm actually getting communication from their engineers for sewer mapping. They're interested in doing Grandview again. And then Sarah Street, which was nice because I was looking at Sarah Street for paving, because Sarah and Pennsylvania are kind of the worst right now. And if they're going to be doing Sarah between Grandview and a little bit past Winfield, it doesn't leave much for us to resurface and pick up on their project. So that enables us to keep doing more. So it's nice to keep in coordination with them. On the sewer maintenance, we cleaned, televised, inspected, and was able to enable an O&M project that we did over 34,000 linear feet of sanitary sewers and manholes. We did emergency larger sewer repairs on Chestnut Street and Laurie Street. We completed this would have been the 3rd or 4th landslide over the past 4 years at the end of Bluff Street. That project got completed earlier this year, where a large retaining wall was built at the end of Bluff Street extension. So over the past 3 years, we completed the Warner Street landslide, and it was that major wall that got built there. We did the wall on Union Street. That was another landslide we had. And then this year was the Bluff Street landslide. So that project got completed. So you've been seeing on the news of the state creating funds for municipalities to manage these landslides. Just think here, within 3 fiscal years, we had 3 significant landslides here that were larger capital outlines with retaining walls. Public Works equipment, we purchased a mini excavator, and that enabled us to do a lot of catch basin work. In line with that, we did storm sewer catch basins pretty much in every street corner in town. Became a little construction company with catch basins done with that. Flood mitigation work, we were in the news big this year as the poster child for losing federal funding for our brick grant for the flood project. But there has been some positive momentum with that. We received communication from PEMA last week that the governor's lawsuit against the federal administration to take those funds back, a judge ruled that those funds had to be frozen, so that it doesn't mean that they could take that brick money and use it for another project. So at least it's looking hopeful that something's going to come of this. And then we're in the midst of 2 government shutdowns, the state level and the federal level. On the state level, usually this time I'm able to have a capital budget that would say, hey, we've got state grants that we're going to do A, B, C, D, E. The state hasn't announced any state grants because of the state budget impasse. And we have, it got to be half dozen grant applications for projects that are just sitting in purgatory because they're accepting applications for this year, and I'm stuck. You didn't make a decision what you're doing last year. So a lot of the applications, like for example, you see on the agenda, the ball field lights, I'm resubmitting again because they didn't make any announcements on, I think I have 4 grant applications sitting on that project until they have the impasse. And then the federal funding, Senator John Fetterman did make an appropriation request to restore our brick funding through an appropriation, and that's at the impasse with that government shutdown. So hopefully in a month we'll know better on both sides where that is. But the budget impasses at the federal and state level is really starting. It's not impacting us at an operational level like you see at counties, but for the capital and the grants, we're kind of like sitting on our hands. Public Works has been very active. We're very diligent in making sure we do like the permits by the culverts, the bridges, the ball field, and that continues, and we remove hundreds of thousands of tons of settlement, and we haul it out of here, and it's nice to stay up on that. Some parks and recreation improvements, we continue to put on a series of community events, and Borough is very involved with that. We constructed the Baldwin Street Butterfly Garden, and we finished up the McLaughlin Run Meadow. The project at Chartiers Park to replace shelter number 1 should be getting started sometime later this month. The contractor called 2 weeks ago saying that the shelter originally was supposed to have a 20-week lead time, is going to be in earlier, so he wanted to do a lot of it over the winter time when it was slow. And I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with it? The park's closed, you know. So you'll probably see shelter 1 starting to come down here within the month. The 2026 budget was like a snapshot. So if you like tell your neighbors, say, what's going on in the borough with my tax dollars, it's essentially balanced funding plan, no tax increase, and some highlights are, again, $300,000 road budget, replace and put a new picnic shelter at Chartiers Park, continued implementation of the active transportation plan, which includes the sidewalks on Chartier Street in partnership with PennDOT, purchase a new public works dump truck, continued investment within the sanitary sewer fund system, hopefully another 34,000 to 40,000 linear feet of sewer maintenance that would come up with a point repair contract. Working with Collier Township for a planning consultant to develop a strategy to improve and revitalize the north end of Washington Avenue. We're working with Collier Township on that. And then continued increases in municipal contributions to the Bridgeville Library, Fire Company, and Southbridge EMS. The 2026 budget, what you have here, is essentially a team effort, and I start this back in August. So if you look at the calendar, it's kind of neat to see how it all plays out. Back in the middle of August, I reached out to the department heads and committee chairs asking for input. I did receive a amount of input from the police chief and the other chiefs and some committee chairs, and I was able to incorporate all those requests within the budget, and I'll go over that in detail. It takes me 2 months to get different renewal rates and contractual renewals all worked out, and it's a giant puzzle to get this thing balanced, and it takes about 2 months. The Finance Committee did review it, and they had some advice, and we did make some corrections to this budget based on feedback we had with the Finance Committee. Finance Committee met 2 weeks ago and did that. This meeting was advertised, and my hope is that once we go through this, if there's no pertinent issues or things I need to work out, we could have a vote tonight to authorize public display and advertisement of it. Just as Mr. de Blasio was saying, we do post it on our website, and it is nice where, my goal is that folks understand we run a very transparent, accountable organization, and I want this to be a living document where the citizens know exactly where every cent is spent. And the narratives here, I improved it over prior years. I kind of use each year as a building block to better it. So when you get into the text sections, you'll see that the spreadsheets are incorporated per department or grouping, so that if by chance you weren't really spreadsheet friendly, or good, you could read the narrative and then you can reference it very quick without going back and forth. So that's really a snapshot on the overall budget. And now, if there's any questions, before I jump into the general fund, I was going to jump into the general fund. Yeah. All right, so just for the sake of everyone's time, if we could reference, we'll go to this, the larger spreadsheets. So I won't read the narratives, I'll say that for you. But in the narratives, we go into every detail of how many numbers of parcels there are in the borough, the overall real estate assessment, the average home, what they would pay, and then who's responsible for each classification of revenue, expenditures, and noteworthy items. I'll touch on most of it as I go, but like I said earlier, if you wanted to know everything about how many fire plugs, street lights, miles of sewer, we allocate kind of a description to all that within the budget. All right, so on the revenue side, so page 1 of the general fund is essentially taxes. Like I said, there is no increase in real estate millage proposed for next year, but as you see, I break this down. It's kind of if you wanted to be just follow trends. You can see 2022 actual, 23 actual, 24 actual, and then the 3 gray columns are for 2025. That's the current fiscal year. You have the budget. as of 9/1, and then my year-end forecast. Typically, you guys know me now, I budget conservatively, so hopefully by the end of the year, it turns out much better than what you see here, but like, I'm not Nostradamus, but I'm pretty good. This is the forecast for the year, and then next year is the 26 budget, and I reference typically the trends or contractual things to get me to that number. So on real estate taxes, I don't show an increase, but I do show an increase in millage rate, but I do show an increase of $9,000 of revenue from real estate collection. But if you look at prior year's collections, at $1,810,000, it is still less than what was actually collected in 2024. And we did have new construction in town with Calcaruth. Calcaruth got assessed just 2 days ago, and their assessment came in just shy of $1 million. So right there's $7,000. So you can see where that 9 is probably is a fair number. Real estate prior, again, that was another increase of $9,700, and that's again matching trends of Anne Marie and I work pretty good, where probably quarterly we sit down together and we go through the delinquent real estate list, and we methodically figure out who's outstanding, what can we do to help that person get back on track, versus someone think that, hey, does it be collected and it sits here, it's like an unpaid loan for 3 years. We're pretty aggressive in old-fashioned door knocking, saying, hey,
Do we still have the agreement that if we collect it,
we
she
do
doesn't collect anything?
Correct, but that would be if by chance someone doesn't pay, and I have to file a civil claim with the magistrate, just as Lori used to do, and if I have to go represent the borough and I collect that, she doesn't get the commission on that. But we haven't had to take anyone to the magistrate. It's been pretty decent. And then the couple people that were big that got leaned, you kind of knew what was going on. We're a small town, kind of know the history of what's going on with people. So we're compassionate and we work with those. So total real estate overall is increasing by $18,000. Act 511 taxes, these are your real estate transfer tax, earned income tax, mercantile, local services, business privilege taxes. There's increases in essentially a couple of these. The big one is real estate transfer tax. Home values within the borough are high, and they're staying high. Essentially, I have a $5,000 increase in what will be collected next year for real estate transfer tax. And you can see on trends that number at $95,000 is probably a realistic number. Earned income tax continues to go up, and essentially, I referenced this to the Finance Committee. This is the one taxation through inflation kind of deal where we're getting the increases on the earned income tax. And that's a $30,000 increase. That's one of the bigger increases here. There is some decreases on mercantile tax and local services tax. That essentially just matches trends. And you can see I budgeted high those couple years, and it just didn't meet budget projections, but it wasn't by much. It was by $1,000 and $3,000. Business privilege tax continues to rise, and that's a $7,000 increase there. So overall, Act 511 taxes are $38,000.
Has Jordan updated those lists?
Yes, so for example, today, anytime I issue an occupancy permit, I notify Jordan Tax, the police department for after-hours emergency contacts, and the Chamber of Commerce so that they can update, potentially get a new member out of it. So today we had a law office open up and get an occupancy permit above Berks. So I update the business rosters, and that business roster gets updated on our website so that the directory for the community is live. And I give it every time to Jerry, and a couple times a year I sit down with Jerry and Bill Leonard at Jordan, and we'll go over, basically he puts together Excel spreadsheets to show what accounts have paid, what's delinquent. And if there's some in there that are like a red flag, we'll ask, what's going on here, and they're pretty good with it.
How did Rite Aid leaving affect you? I mean, I know you said that was a big retailer for us, so is that? It
doesn't reflect it.
Okay.
But I think it's going to reflect the gain. Rite Aid will be about a $15,000 loss. That's what they paid in all their Act 511 taxes. It was $15,000. I'm hopeful by middle of next year someone's in there. I know there was talks back and forth, but I haven't heard anything lately. So
Rumor of Dollar General?
I didn't hear that rumor.
Don't start that one.
And did that not change ownership?
No.
No, I mean, in the past.
The three times, really
Right.
did.
A couple years ago.
Okay. All right.
We made pretty good money.
Yes, if you look back, the 2022 real estate transfer tax, see the year, we
Yeah.
made 141,000?
Yeah.
That was the Rite Aid years when it sold.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like twice within 3 months or something
Correct.
like that.
Because it was like a $27,000 gain
Yeah.
each time. I was like, whoa.
Split bonus, now we're gonna pay for it.
Right.
Does Jordan do a reverse that somebody's reporting to having business in Bridgeville and then lets us know?
I've never had that experience now.
Because Jordan doesn't do that, or?
I don't know. I can't even answer that one. Something I'd have to.
You know what I mean, though? Like, if somebody's declaring they have a business in Bridgeville,
Uh-huh.
it's not on our record.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I've never experienced that. But I've had the opposite, with them, because it was, I don't know if it was middle of last year, our business roster and the tax rules, they were outdated. And I knew there was more businesses here than what I had on my thing, so over like 2 months, I made a point to walk, and we went door to door. And it was one of those classic, you act like you belong there, no one questions you. So I would go in those like office buildings, just take pictures of the directory and look on the thing and compare what I had and what I didn't. I picked up like 70 businesses, if you remember, I think I shared with
Oh,
the
yeah.
chamber. It was massive.
That's part of the reason why I was asking.
And that kind of what ticked me off is that none of that was on Jordan's radar. And I think that's why you're seeing some increases in business privilege tax, because if it wasn't like us telling them or someone at least being proactive, no one
We
would
have
do
to
it.
please our own.
You have to be sure. No one's gonna do it for you. So it's nice to just do it.
Okay, that, I guess that was what I mean.
Yeah, and that comes from me.
That's Joe Carr, not Jordan.
That's me, correct, yeah.
Okay.
But it was good. It was nice to know, because then we updated business roster with the police department while that was all going on. You shared out with the fire company. So it was a really good exercise. And it's probably time to do it again, because like some stuff changes and you don't even know.
I volunteer, Shane.
I'll walk with you.
It'd be fun.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
let's go.
Cool.
Tiptoe around everything.
All right, so any questions on Act 511 taxes? All right, as I go on the bottom of this page, there's like permits and stuff here. The big noticeable thing to talk about is cable franchise fees. Cable franchise keeps dropping, and next year I predict another $13,000 loss. And next year I show revenue of $87,000 between Comcast and Verizon. If you look back to 2024, it was $104,000 we brought in. Right now we're under a renewal agreement with Comcast, and they did an audit of all the Comcast accounts. In 2020, there was over 1,000 Comcast subscribers in the borough. As of last year, there was 560. So within a matter of 4 years, half of them have cut the cord, hypothetically. So that revenue source continues to drop. And I would say that's something that, even though it's not much, but if that would go away, that's an employee that you need to make up. So it's worth keeping it on your radar.
Well, and if you talk to legislators, you need to tell them to expand it to adding the internet, because that's not,
It's not fair.
yeah,
'Cause,
because
they
they're
don't pay.
now streaming through the internet, so they don't, that's why they
How
don't.
do you
do cable.
start that conversation?
They have been talking about that in the Boroughs Association. You would see it occasionally in the Borough News Magazine that there was talk, that they should be included in cable franchise fees, the streaming services. And essentially, it operates within the right-of-way, the
Yeah.
wires.
Yep.
And that really shouldn't be exempt, because when you think about it, the actual cable franchise agreement, when you buy through QVC, that's actually through your cable, and the borough actually receives a commission back through those sales. So what's the difference between a streaming company? It's
Yeah.
still the same philosophy. So it's interesting. But I think it's something to keep an eye on Borough News. You see it come up every year or so, and if it is, maybe just jump on the phone to your legislator, say, hey, it's on the Borough News, there's a resolution coming up, maybe you should support it. So,
And just before you go, there's an accident right beside the dairy light with injury, so if I get up and walk out, I'll be back.
Joe, what are the mechanical devices? What do we call those? Is
That's,
that-
we call them poker machines and bars.
Okay.
And there was a loss, so that reflects the 4,000 loss, that was the closing Italian club
Yeah.
and the rail yard.
A few years ago, we lost quite a bit too.
Plus, wasn't there another game to chance down bowling?
It comes and goes, because it's like one of those ones where it washes, where some years you get, like, Cobos will have 3, and this one have 4, so it's like it's a wash, but that's what that is.
The Kogo's ones are on there too, right?
Yeah, they're
They're
there.
Bridgeville Mark, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so going to page 2, these are fines and revenue. Really, everything's kind of the same status quo. Interest, I have increasing to $5,000 on the general fund only, and that kind of just matches trends, and that's kind of conservative. Intergovernmental entitlements, this is fire relief that we get from the state that we pass on to the fire company, it just matches actual revenue from 2024. There's not much of a change, slight increase in the RAD tax, and that matches the trend, at the 5,000 increase on the 1% sales tax. And then state pension aid, our actuary estimates a $2,000 addition in state aid for pension support. So overall, intergovernmental entitlements is going up about $6,900. The other group in here are miscellaneous things like what the school district pays us back to operate the tax office, that's what the Sharp Valley thing is there. And the rest is permits like zoning permits, conditional uses, police copies, and tax certs. And it's essentially the same as this year. There's no gain there.
The state liquor license there, Joe, why does that decrease 400?
That was because of the rail yard.
Okay.
The new restaurant doesn't have a liquor license.
I did hear yesterday with all the voters that they might have a small one. We'll keep them. I'll stop in there and look at it.
Each establishment has a liquor license, $400 a year comes back to the town that it operates in. So
So you just do a quick calc, just
$400.
multiply who has them.
Yep. It is.
Thank you.
Okay, the next page is miscellaneous revenue. I have a sale of a public works dump truck. I think that number's even low. I think we'll do pretty good on a sale of one of the red dumps next year. Greg redid all the body work on one, so it kind of got your eye. Like it doesn't.
He did a nice job.
He did, yeah.
Are we getting, you said about buying a dump truck, are we buying a bigger dump or just?
I was hoping an F600.
600.
It was interesting where I thought there'd be a big price difference between an F600 and an F550.
Yeah.
It was like under $480 some dollars. It was under $500, and that goes from a GV or W whatever of 19,000 to 22,000. And for less than $500 to get us to the 22,000 rating, we could use that F600 as a tow motor.
Yeah.
And that's why I was thinking that. So the new truck that I'm hoping that you allow me to buy, I'm asking for an F600.
Okay.
And it's not much bigger. Like when you look at it, it's the same truck. It just has
It's just the
springs.
springs and everything are different.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, getting rid of the GMC, you need something for a crick too.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And some of the other ones moving down to be crick trucks.
Yeah. And I hate seeing the newer trucks go in the creek.
Oh, yeah.
I hate it. But like they're like, it's meant to. I'm like, I know it's meant to, but it doesn't. You don't do it. You know? But it is what it is. All right. So, so the middle of this page. This is probably the most conversational item I have on here. So the big increases for revenue to keep up with the trends was the increases in the Act 511 taxes, and then the interfund transfer between the sanitary sewer fund and the general fund. I'm asking for an increase in the reimbursement from the sewer fund to the general fund for public works, myself, and the assistants to shore below arts wages. Essentially right now, it's about 15% of our wages is reimbursed by the sewer fund, essentially for our work to do sewer work. So public works is kind of black and white, all the work doing sewer maintenance. And then myself is I essentially run the sewer utility, and Cheryl does all the financial sides. The amount of sewer work we do is, no exaggeration, 10 hours a week is probably even low. There's a good number to look at when we get to the sewer budget. We collect more on sewer revenue than what we do in real estate taxes. So right there shows that we're kind of turning into a sewer utility than what we have here. So right there is like the front page test to show that 25% is in line for what the operation does, since we do a lot of sewer work. So I showed the increase in those coming over, in that there alone helps sustain the operations. I don't believe, moving into the future, that we should exceed the 25% mark. I don't think that would be appropriate, but 25% under, definitely within means. And then you see that in other municipalities and even municipal authorities, that you have managers of a municipal authority or actual designated staff that are 100% paid from the sewer fee. So think along those lines. Yeah, and then you have that even at South Bay, they have a full standalone authority. So overall, general fund revenue, $3.9 million, an increase after some cuts that were made there of $89,000, and that's going to be balanced on the expenditure side. Any questions before I jump to expenditures? All right, so now on the expenditures. The first classing is administration. Employee wages, I show a 3% increase across the board. Next year is a pretty important year for us here, that the public works and the police officers are under a collective bargaining agreement. Both agreements were 5-year agreements when they were done last. Well, this year, 2026, is year 5 of that. So next year is a negotiation year. So all the wages in both CBAs are going to 3%, so we just matched 3%, so that's where that number came from. So keep that in mind. Next year, I got to get a root canal next week, and then next year we'll get another root canal when we do contract negotiations. So.
Then a forward front teeth.
Yeah, they'll pull my front teeth and one back. So that's something to keep in mind for next year. So overall, administration is going up $4,200. Now, going on, tax collector and treasurer. Auditing services, I showed going up $1,000, but once we got proposals last month, after the budget was done, it's only going up $500, so that number's high. Tax collection, the only big number here worth noting, there's two worth noting, is the tax collector's bond. This was an election year, so we pay the bond every 4 years, so that $2,100 thing is due every 4 years, due in 2026. I did decrease the amount of real estate refunds by $5,000 and still leave $5,000 in there. As you can see, I budgeted $10,000 this year, but we've only spent $3,700. Last year was the fluke at $15,000, and going back to what Bruce was saying, that was the year, last year we had to reimburse or do a refund to Rite Aid, because they did a challenge on the assessment, and that was that whole common level ratio that you saw that's really hurting Pittsburgh. That was the year that it really hurt us, and we haven't had any significant challenges since then. And Lord forbid, like I told the finance committee, if it comes down to where you did get the real estate challenge, like for example, like I know Heidelberg experienced this when Walgreens got reassessed and they had to do a refund of $40,000. It would be one of those things where we would end up taking that from a budgetary reserve fund. There's no way that I'd be able to budget knowing for a day that you'd end up with a $40,000 tax refund. We're in the business of collecting taxes, not giving it out. So if that did happen, we are in a good position where we do have a budgetary reserve fund that we established a couple of years ago to help for, Lord forbid, the next big flood or something bad like that happens. So overall taxes is going down, taxes by the tax office of $4,600. Legal fees, the solicitor stays the same. I did receive a letter from the solicitor that will be in the packets for Monday for a fee increase. He hasn't raised his fees since 2019, so it kind of was expected. It makes you feel good. I did negotiate a no increase on the retainer. We did put a fee increase and then a retainer increase. I said it's way too one out. We were able to, he said, stick the retainers the same. It's just the hourly wages going up. Engineer, now this is that goes into insurances, and this is our employee insurances. We did have a very big hit on health insurance. Our health insurance is going up 13% next year, and that equates to $43,000 in increase. This is budgeted worst case. We have 2 vacancies in the police department that potentially, or we're on track to hire for January. And then we'll have, downstairs the one with Mike leaving, and that guy hopefully will be hired in December. So in January 1, this is budgeted worst case that everyone's coming in as a family. If you hire someone that's fortunate to be a single person, there's cushion here. But I budgeted worst case for Indian families. The other ones were modest increases on workers' comp is going up $2,500, and the dental and vision was small, a couple $100. So overall, employee insurances, workers' comp and medical is $49,000 increase. This was our big hit for the year. It was this number. This was it. Going into 407s, 01407, these are our computer systems. Really no big changes here. There's a $1,000 increase on the website and the texting program, and that also, that line we paid for our IT consultant. So nothing really exciting there. On the engineering, I did continue, I did an increase on the actual overall engineering work, $5,500. Flood engineering, I didn't budget for that, but I'm hoping, or we sit on our hands, because one of the either or kind of deals, is that we have so many irons in the fire on flood projects for grants, but all those grants have engineering lumped into the reimbursement. So once these projects start getting approved or denied, if they're approved, we're moving forward, and would be reimbursed through the grants. So that's why I didn't allocate anything there. And even this year, we paid a lot of that just out of general engineering.
So I have a question for the first phase of flood mitigation. Those permits, engineering, has already been paid out of 2025 salary, correct?
They were paid for out of prior years. We
Okay.
had that before going into this year, because you remember they pulled our funding like in March,
Right.
April,
Right.
and we had that done last year.
All right.
Yeah. So we're at a point now where it'd be frivolous to spend more on this project until someone helps us a little bit, because we've gone as far as we can.
One thing you're reading, the Fetterman was working on reimbursing.
McCormick's office was, yes.
Yeah.
We did have communication from Sam DeMarco at McCormick's office that he was going to find a way to get us reimbursed for the summer costs.
700,000 or something like that, yeah.
Yes. All right, so 409, this is essentially the borough building and public grounds outside of parks. The only thing in here that's really decreasing is building maintenance, and that was a project that I deferred this year to next year. Earlier this year, we had a number of big budget hits that I started deferring things or essentially stop spending just to keep us on track. And this was one of them. And essentially, this was repointing masonry on a couple of walls that bricks were spalling. So I didn't do that project this year, and I kicked it to next year, paid out of the capital project fund. And this kind of goes back to earlier this year, we had an insurance renewal when it went up higher than what we budgeted because of this lost run hits we had over the past couple of years. And then the winter that never stopped snowing in January, February. So I'm not going to make budget by the end of the year, but things start aligned. But that was one thing. The reason why I got the first was I was trying to keep the ship afloat. The next page is the police department. Really nothing too crazy here. There's decreases in longevity pay. Essentially, it was because the former chief is retired, so seniority is starting over. We have a lot of younger guys that don't have longevity, so that's why there's a decrease there. Sick time buyback, there's no one that would meet the eligibility for sick time buyback. Next year, off of this year's usage, they've used their sick time, so there is no one that will be rewarded. The wages for the chief, sergeant, patrolman match the CBA 3% increase, and that same goes for the police secretary. Talking to the police chief, we did budget for a part-time officer this year, and if you look at prior years, we did rely on a part-time officer, but in this year, one thing nice about 2025, no, it was 2024. It was the year where we said, you know what, we can't operate with part-time officers. We're going to be 100% full-timers. So that's why it went from like $40,000 down to $200 because we had 9 full-time officers. But in 2025, we budgeted $15,000. We were going to hire a part-timer to maybe cover some summer shifts. That never happened. In today's climate, the part-time officer is like a unicorn until things start changing. So, talking to the chief, it was essentially, don't budget that $15,000 for a part-time officer next year, and then redirect that $15,000 for some other efforts that he would like to see within the police department, and then I'll go over that. Overtime pay, when I budget $37,000, but we pay out $125,000, the $37,000 is essentially, we'll call it borough overtime, filling a shift, an event, call off, that kind of stuff. This is the same line item where we run all the off-duty details through, so that's why you see that big number here, and that big number goes back to prior years as well. But a lot of that is reimbursed on the revenue side, so it's nothing to be alarmed about. In-service training, there was an increase of $8,000 next year, and of that $8,000 is coming from that $15,000 reallocation. And the chief wants to have a lot of train-the-trainer opportunities, get various officers within the department specialized. That could be the one that certifies the rest of the guys to do this, and vice versa. So there was a number of training opportunities that he's lined up for next year, and this would pay for those tuition costs. Uniform allowance, I have an increase of $4,200 next year. Essentially, this is because we're going to have 2 new officers coming on board, and to outfit each officer's $2,500. So that's why you're seeing the increase of the $4,200. Computer maintenance is going down $1,200. Essentially, there was able to renegotiate the software we have for the LPR, which is the license plate reader, right here up Armory Hill Road. There's a new vendor that's doing that, so that's actually a cost saving for the borough. Computer supplies, modest increase. Got computer maintenance. Shore Blower was able to negotiate a renewed copier maintenance agreement that was a significant cost savings, and you see that savings between the fire department, the police department, and the borough office. Traffic signal maintenance, this is something where we do operate a unique technology on 3 of our traffic signals in the borough along the avenue, and they're requiring us to have a maintenance agreement for them to take care of it, and they can monkey with it from a place in Kansas, because the time, I joked about it a couple months ago that I don't think we're going to do it, because I played hardball for years, and then miraculously things stopped working. So they weren't going to fix it unless you had a maintenance agreement. So they got us. So that's what that is. Minor equipment. This is a request from the police chief to start replacing the long guns within the department, and some furniture within the police department. The cage for car 2 is going to be paid out of the capital project fund. So essentially, the $3,500 was for the long guns and some new chairs within the station. Miscellaneous fees. These are more a $1,500 increase for some community-oriented policing costs, is what we call it. Ammunition's going up $1,000 just off of what it costs anymore. The rest of the items within the police department, except when you get to the next page, they're kind of self-explanatory. Capital purchases, it doesn't show, it shows a decrease of $59,000. We got in a very nice routine 4 years ago where we were replacing a police car every other year, and we got a nice routine where 1 year's a police car, so this year's a police car, and then next year it's a public works truck. So next year, 2026, is a dump truck, and then the police don't get a police car. So then we kind of flip-flop back and forth. So next year you show the $60,000, and then you're going to see that being picked up in the public works department. $3,000 for body armor is because we're going to have 2 new hires just to buy bulletproof vests for the 2 new guys.
So how many years does the car last?
We're trying to get like 4 or 5 years out of the car. We get more, but ideally we're hoping for 5.
And Gary took Chad's car and turned it into a patrol car, and he took the car.
Correct.
The car part is the
His
chief's
car.
car.
Yeah.
Because nobody wanted to use the car for, so that worked out really nice, because Chad's car got back into the cycle of everything, so buy us time.
Yeah. So police actually shows a decrease, but the decrease is mainly off of 2 reasonings. One is the large capital purchase being over, and then 2 guys coming in now at 70% salary versus being higher up on the pay scales. Now continuing, 411, this is fire and EMS. I'm asking for a $5,000 increase to both Southbridge and the fire company for next year. This year, the fire company used their allocation. They did 2 things with it. They paid for the loans on the tower, that's the aerial ladder truck that's set to be paid off in 2029, and then they use 25,000 of that for the down payment on the mini pumper that's under order that should be here next fall. And then next year, I would anticipate that they're gonna do the same thing, because of the 100,000 or 95,000 for this year, 70-some thousand of it does pay for the loan on that ladder truck that we're on track to pay off by 2029. And we have been having communication, dialogue, and good conversation and financial planning with the fire company that, hey, we want to continue this capital outlay. When that ladder truck's paid off in 2029, we want to pick up a pumper replacement to keep in an apparatus recycle, just like we do with the public works trucks and the police cars. For the pumper.
That's their decision.
Yes, but he's making sure that we're gonna be able to continue that versus saying, hey, you pay for the ladder truck, that money's being taken back. And that was the big concern. And they wanted to be very upfront with us to say, hey, are you able to continue that? Because essentially the borough bought the ladder truck through this 15-year loan, and they want to keep that same funding source in line for the pumper replacement, which makes common sense. You know?
Yeah, we're just always giving them X number of dollars. Are we gonna continue to do that?
Correct. And then each year they send us, you know, a narrative of how they spent that. And that's what they did for this year's money. And that's probably the same routine for next. EMS is a new funding source over the past couple of years. As you've all seen, the financial strains on the ambulance service. And that will take our contribution to $30,000 next year from the borough. And that puts us in line with the per capita contribution what Cecil pays. So Dan couldn't be any happier on what we're doing there to support the ambulance provider.
He hasn't been hitting them. Wasn't he asking for a little bit of more based from South Fayette?
He was. But
What's the difference between them and Canonsburg?
Cecil.
I'm sorry, never mind.
You'll see it in that financial report. I think it's like $6 and. Oh,
Betty's stolen.
I thought it was like $6.42 per capita.
Okay.
But they started out high, and that's what set the bar for everyone. If you remember when Cecil EMS went defunct and Southbridge took it over, they came out from the gate saying, we're gonna give you $100,000. And then that set the tone for the other two towns to say, hey, can you meet this per capita? And if you remember, God, it was 2021, I think was our first year we paid to the ambulance. And, come on, people pay an ambulance bill. It's got, I really want hospital. So it was a big revenue, something for us to start doing. And it was nice that systematically we've been able to meet the expectations to keep that fair. Because why should they subsidize here, you know, the neighbors? So we're all kind of on the same thing.
Okay.
But I think Dan feels, well, I can't speak for Dan, but there is some frustration where if the low guy can meet the goal, why can't the haves meet the goal, you know? So that's where I think you kind of get that tone when we talk about EMS funding.
Do they provide us financial statements like the fire department? Just curious.
No, But essentially $25,000, you know, okay, it went to payroll or something, but I could definitely ask for it.
You should be able to pull that up on the nonprofit.
Yeah.
Guidance, called Guidance, sorry.
Do you know, I knew they were like not in great shape.
I don't know. We don't have, like, the fire department, every quarter, we get a financial report that shows kind of like the borough's budget to actual. This is what they have in all their funds. This is what their gain or loss for the year.
They hired a new,
Yeah, they have a
volunteer accountant.
Correct.
She's very good.
And we reviewed it with the finance committee, so we know, we don't want to get in a position where they were a couple of years ago where there was no money for the rainy day or capital purchases like to buy a pumper. Because if they didn't get their financial house in order, that new truck wasn't going to happen. You could definitely see over the past 3 years a change in just the business operations of the fire department. And their bottom line reflects that. You know, you see that. But we don't get that from the EMS.
This is
We never asked for it.
Jason, but that was like a major conversation we had.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we need to see your financials, we need to, and they always prepare them. It wasn't as organized, and they do a really nice job now.
But
We should probably get something from, if we're gonna contribute that amount of money, we should
library, we sit down and have conversations with the library on funding, so it makes
Yeah.
sense. I'll get it.
Don't they have to do something like that for a 501c?
Well, that's where you get it from the guide star. I'd check the guide star before you start. Ask them just not to.
By the way, no criticism on the EMS, I think they're phenomenal, and I'm glad we're continuing to increase the money. I was just curious if we were getting statements from them.
Yeah, but it's something worth asking.
At least, yeah, for the public's sake.
They gave me a nice ride down to Frisbee, so.
Yeah, but I guess the percentage of what we're giving to them compared to their full budget
Is pennies.
is pennies, where for the library, it's a nice chunk. So that's why we're asking for financials from them.
For sure.
And we support the library in a few different, capacities, so that, and I think that was just volunteered from them.
Yeah, and like the fire department, like you said, it's an apple and an orange, because like the fire department, the library, like, if the borough funding isn't there,
Right.
it's catastrophic.
Right.
Yeah, this is,
That's the only, I mean, you
I'm
just
just
gotta,
asking for my own.
yeah, part of me says, I don't know if I was Dan, if I would wanna share it, unless it is public, which I think it is, and I think you could just easily download it off of GuideStar, which is a nonprofit website. I'm just giving you, I mean, because it's such a small
Yeah.
portion of their budget.
I'll pull the GuideStar report, and then
See
if
if that's
that,
enough.
if that warrants like questionable,
Guideline, yeah.
then we can go to him. I think that'd be the best way to go. Because that would be like the canary in the coal mine if there's something we need to do to help.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Good point.
All right. Moving on, outside of fire and EMS, the next one is just zoning and planning. Really nothing too newsworthy here, other consultant fees. The consultant fees is essentially this year is a $10,000 loss, because this year we paid for the downtown zoning project on this line item. A grant's gonna reimburse us back 50% of those costs, but next year for the north end, traffic engineering work, I'm asking to pay for that out of the capital project fund versus the general fund. Going into the public works department, matching the other ones, CBA for next year is a 3% increase. So the public works foreman, you see his salary standalone is a 3% increase. Public works overtime, I really don't have much of an increase. This is not snow removal overtime. So public works overtime is either two things. Classification budget-wise, snow overtime, which you'll see later on, and then just general overtime, and that would be like park maintenance on a weekend, tree call out, that kind of stuff, sewer issues, that's what you see here. Going into the actual department, the next thing on the next page is the capital purchase, and you'll see 50,000 here for a dump truck, and I'm asking to pay half out of the general fund, half out of the sewer fund. A dump truck, I got a quote on replacing a dump truck, it's $108,000 for next year, kind of just keep them where it is. It's insane. So, going into snow removal, really nothing changes here. We budget for 900 tons of salt. Salt next year is at $88.32 a ton. So we roughly will spend about $80,000 to salt the streets. Snow overtime is about 20 grand. We haven't met the budget for snow overtime in a long time. And salt, other than this year, we've been very fortunate for the past couple winters. We have a nice supply going into the winter. We have a new vendor this year, so there's going to be kind of a learning curve on what we're dealing with a new company with deliveries and what have you.
Can you please knock on wood?
Yeah, we just had our county meeting today.
Yeah, I don't know. We got 2 trucks ready for snow operations already. We have salt spreaders put on 2 trucks right now. And the rest of the other ones are committed with leaf and brush. But we'll be ready. And then I'll have my first salt orders probably in December, because I don't want to pay for a salt bill until January. The bin looks half full, but it is full because it's stacked high. Because if you brought down, we never stacked it that high. So if you brought it down to where like Uncle Bill used to keep it, it's full. It's just we have it really stocked high. So I think we're going to be in a good position with that. Going into utilities and street lighting, The first item is streetlights. That bill is going up $13,000 next year off of what it's costing to operate just the overall streetlights within the borough. And in the narratives, you'll see, I think it's like a little under 500 streetlights. These are the Cobra heads in town. And then the Avenue streetlights are going up another $500. So right there is $13,600 just for street lighting increase.
Is that utility? That's just the charge for this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we had a,
Well, your dark skies initiative there, Christine.
Yeah.
Disconnect some of them.
that's the way to do it. Every other street, they got Sky compliant. Yeah.
But it went down a couple years ago when they went to the LED lights, now it's
It's coming
back up.
Now, does that include them servicing them?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
you
do
play-
we have to do this?
There's two different.
Okay.
So the big number, the 60 grand one,
Yeah.
you play they're not metered, you play a flat rate per light.
Okay.
Even if it's off, you pay, that's why you gotta record them, because you pay if it's on or if it's off. The borough street lights on the avenue are metered, and that's all by us, like, we have to maintain all of that, and that's where it's nice to have some skilled labor, because it's a big thing. Yeah. MS4 permit, we budget $40,000. Essentially, we pay for concrete out of that and grates. That's to do catch basin repairs. Vehicle maintenance, we budget $25,000. Most of the work is done in-house, and we send stuff up to Bruce's for inspection, but most of the big stuff is done downstairs. And we maintain all the police cruisers in-house as well. Going on to the next page, public work wages, this is the rest of the crew. It's a 3% increase across the board. I do show a decrease in asphalt. This is us paving alleys and doing pothole repairs. As you see, I budgeted high for years now, and I haven't meet the budget projection, so they trimmed that number down to $12,000. Oh, another thing I trimmed down was just sidewalk work. We used to contract out sidewalk, and we had to do a little repair here and there. All that's now is done in-house. So I brought that number down as well as an effort to balance the budget. Going into parks, there really is no changes here. Everything is kind of the same as what we're operating this year. We do put $10,000 for capital purchases. In the past couple of years, we used that money to help do some improvements to the lots on Baldwin Street. That's how we paid for those projects. But if we had to do a project in a park, like a park roof or something, that's where we would pay for that. Allocation for the library, like I said, for the fire company and ambulance, I try to treat the three of them. Those are like the three nonprofits that are supported by the borough. We kind of do our best to be equitable across, and I have a $5,000 increase for them as well. And I think this is something to be proud of the council, is that if you look at across the board, I know like going back in 2020, we used to give $22,000 to the library. So in a matter of 6 years, we've essentially almost doubled what we were able to contribute to the library. And that library is more than a library. That library is our community center, and it does a lot within the borough, and it advances efforts for all ages. And I kind of like, more I work here, we've been really doing a good job of promoting the library as that community center and all the programs they do. So when we put out our calendars for the month, you always see the library things incorporated in there. Because people don't, they just see Collier Community Center, and they see I can go up there and pay $5 to see a movie with my grandma, or I can go there and pay $5 to take a painting class. Meanwhile, I can go to my Bridgeville library and I can do it for free, but everyone thinks the Joneses have it and we don't. Meanwhile, we do have these same programs in here. It's just run through the library, and the borough does support that significantly, and that's what's nice about us contributing that increase up. And I wish we could do more, but I think we need to do our part to kind of spin it as that it is our community center, and really what it is. So the next page, and then going back to what we were saying about the ambulance, we do meet with the library board and the director usually once a year on their finances, and that's what enabled us to get to this point, to help them bridge some gaps that were happening on the mortgage.
Is that enough for you, or would you prefer like more?
I would prefer more, but I don't know what the need is. And we got creative on what we do for them. Like This year, we negotiated, they used to pay for garbage collection, for example, and I think they were paying $3,600, $4,000 a year for dumpsters. So we said, well, that's easy, we can provide that within the garbage contract. So we took on just different bills that they used to pay, and that's not reflected in here, you know. So we do find ways to help them, and not so much in the past, but like, we do a lot of their handyman maintenance work now that they used to contract out. Like, for example, a week and a half ago, their dumpster enclosure, we reconstructed the asphalt and the concrete in front of that, and we line paint, and every time she needs a light bulb changed, we did sidewalks, you know, anything big like that, she asks, she gets, because we understand that. And there's only so much we can do, but like with all the organizations in town, even the Historical Society, if there's like ways we can be creative, being just what we're here for, it gets done. And we pick up a lot of slack, I would say, on the library side that really is under the radar. And that's what it should be. You know?
I'm gonna encourage them to like report to you quarterly, because I think your expertise, you might catch things here and there. You know, a lot of us who are looking at that stuff at the library board, you know, we don't have the financial expertise that you do, so.
Okay, I'd be happy to do it. All right, going on to the next page. Community Day, same budget as prior year. Really the only thing here that's noticeable is when we get to the actual insurances. The MMOs, or is the borough's contributions to the pension fund, they rather stay the same over the prior year. And the insurances where we have some big hits. And we took that big hit this year, as you saw, it wasn't budgeted for, we didn't expect to get, we call it spanked with that big hit here, but we did. And that budget increase is put into the budget for next year, and you'll see an increase of almost $29,000 on the general liability and the auto. And it was interesting, I asked, our insurance agent was in the office yesterday, and you had a good point, is if you remember, it was, hey, you know, our agent is retiring, and he goes, it's going to be on your loss run for 3 years, anticipate this for 3 years, and go down. And Justina complains, she goes, something goes back down, you know? So I asked him today, I was very candid, I said, we know like our loss runs are going to reflect this hit for 3 years, is what would be expected in year 4, is that going to go back down? He goes, probably not, you know? He says, your dividend will more than likely increase, which makes sense. But he says, if anything, you know, you may just be getting caught up with inflation more at that point. So I did ask that to our agents. We sat down and did renewals yesterday.
You tried.
I tried.
Was that Florida?
Florida.
He's retired?
No, Jack Allen's retiring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jack was. And then our contribution to the flood authority stayed the same, has been the same since early 2000s. We have one debt, and that loan payment here is $133,000, and that's paid off like 2035. I think it is somewhere up there. So overall, balanced budget, $3.9 million. No need for a tax increase. Everything everyone asked for, we were able to accommodate, and operations stayed status quo without any major noticeable service costs.
I do have one question. Public officials liability insurance, what does that cover?
You saying something wrong.
Wrongful termination.
There's omissions, you do something wrong. We made a mistake on something.
So I guess my question is.
Somebody can't sue you personally.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that if I don't know how to conduct myself in a certain way or what to say, you know, so that I don't go overboard, that's what. Is there?
Sense
We're talking about the trucker training that you're,
No, I
didn't you go to the school?
training school?
Yeah, well, there was, what's it called?
Like risk management.
Yeah,
Our insurance company does put on training programs occasionally. I know I've participated in it. They're by our base. If I see something that's deals with professional liability, I'd be more than happy to share it with you. But we do have four general insurance renewals. We have cybersecurity that comes up in January. We have our property and general liability that comes up in January. Police professional insurance that comes up in the middle of summertime, and that's like wrongful arrests, something along those lines. And then you have your public officials. We haven't had any claims on our public officials on the loss run, so it is good. Even the police is good. But the one where we get our hits on is our auto, or even our general liability is good. Everything, all our losses has been auto related. Okay? Okay, so go to the orange tab. This takes us to the sewer fund.
I know more about sewers.
All right, and then sewer fund, I go into detail, and that starts on page 32 of the narrative, but we'll just stick for the meeting here unless we have to reference it to the spreadsheet. So sewer fund, balanced budget, $2.3 million. And you look at economies of scale, general funds 3.9, sewer funds 2.3 million. I do show cash on hand allocation of $400,000 used to smooth it out. And I have, over the past 5-6 years, did put in cash on hand at the beginning of the year. I have this conversation every year saying, hey, I'm going to put in, versus the borough raising our rate. We haven't raised our rate since 2017, maybe even before that. It's like $6 and some cents per 1,000 gallons. Most of your sewer fee is Elkison. The borough portion of your fee, we've been doing our best to keep that status quo for almost a decade, which is great. And we do have a considerable fund balance within the sewer fund of about 1.6 million. The general fund has a fund balance of about 1 million, and my predecessor did an amazing job of establishing that fund balance at 1 million, and that enables us not never, but right now not to need a tax anticipation note. A lot of our neighboring communities get a TAN loan every year, so that come like end of December, when the fiscal year is ending and checkbooks almost at zero and tax season isn't going to be till August, they get a loan from the bank that carries essentially your operations till December. And I started out my career as a bookkeeper in Carnegie, and Rico in the audience used to work the road crew. And I never forget, I'm getting a lot of gray hairs at 21 years old when the tax anticipation note didn't come in yet, and I got to make payroll at Christmas time, and there wasn't enough in the checkbook, and you had to be very creative in the war years at Carnegie.
It worked out, Joe.
Yeah, it worked out here. No one ever knew a hitch, but it used to be very hard down there. It's a lot easier now, but it used to be pretty hard back then.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the 90s, it was, when I first came on in 90, there was like $15,000 left at the end of the year, and you
Yeah.
needed $200,000 tax anticipation loan.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how much it costs and how many municipalities
Oh,
have
yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
Because you have to pay an upfront fee, then you gotta pay legal costs, and then you're paying interest for a good 9 to 10 months of the year just on that money.
Yeah.
Because at that point, they don't, like, they can probably get rid of it in, well, I guess whenever they start getting their tax money in, but it's too close that they don't want, and then they wait until October, November. We're starting to receive those TAM payments now. And it's costly. It's money that you could have spent on other things if you're able to keep the fund balance.
Back then, Senator Ettinger was on council, and she was the head of finance, and that was her mission. She was there for a 2-year term. That was her mission, to have $200,000 by the end of that, and we did. That
Yeah.
was by maneuvering stuff around and getting it, but, so we didn't have to do it. Back then, I think we were paying 5 or 8% interest at that time, so. Yeah.
It is. We are very, we're very healthy on the financial side where we don't have to do that, and that's something it's worth talking about because you can't take that for granted. And she did a great job getting that fund balance to 1 million. And it's nice is that if you notice every year, a couple months ago, we'll run a surplus, and I wait till tax season and I ask for you guys to authorize me to transfer that to capital project fund. That's essentially the gravy over the fund balance. So the fund balance will always stay at 1 million. The surplus then on top of that goes to capital project fund, and that allows us to do the projects in town. The fund balance does 2 things. One, it enables us not to do the TAN note. And then if you look back into 2018 when we had the terrible flood that cost hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars, it enabled us to have money in the bank to take care of that disaster. Over the past 5 years, knowing the importance of the fund balance, and the auditor always talks about our fund balance every year, and it's something to be proud of as a board. And we do our best to create a budgetary reserve fund outside of the fund balance so that, Lord forbid, the flood happens again, we got $400,000 there that we were able to save being just responsible that, Lord forbid, that it's something to that magnitude, we don't have to hit the fund balance. And then I've also been using that as like the match for the flood project grants to say, hey, we have this flood fund ready to go. So you can either use it for the flood project itself, or Lord forbid, that next disaster. So it's nice to talk about that fund balance. So that's with respect to the fund balance of the general fund. The fund balance of the sewer fund is at $1.6 million. So next year, I'm asking for $413,000 to be allocated of the fund balance for operations. But at the end of the year, we're very cheap and responsible and find ways to keep contracts low. I haven't had to use it. So if you look at this year's forecast for the end of the year, I asked for last year's budget for 25 of $479,000. It doesn't even get used. And that's the same for all these years, and the fund balance continues to grow. So it's in here as a benchmark as if cash flow doesn't meet projections, but I'm confident that it will. Regarding sewer revenue, Alcoasand is going up 7% next year. They did a 7-year rate resolution a couple years back. No, 5-year rate resolution, and it was 7% each year. This year is the last year of their rate thing, so who knows what 27 is going to be, but they're going up 7%. 7% Alcoasand increase is about a 4% increase overall on our actual rate. I show a decrease of 43,000. What I did here is I based it off of the year-end, the actual number, not the forecast. So that's how you get at the $1.887 million collected for sewer collections. Overall, it shows a decrease of $99,000, but it's the fund balance, and there really is no change. Now, on the expenditures, it shows the increase to reimburse the general fund for the public works and administrative services. And then payment to Alcoasand, you see the 7% increase. And then going down to source reduction and repairs, there's a memo that you'll get in your council packets tomorrow for next week's meeting. This time last year, I talked about a project that Bridgeville, Upper St. Clair, and Bethel Park is working on regionalization of the McLaughlin Run sewer interceptor. Bridgeville took on the lead of this multi-municipal project for the 3 towns. If you remember 3 years ago, the borough was under a new consent order with the health department for us to reduce source flow reduction to the sanitary sewer by 10%. And then each town had to reduce their infiltration by 10%. That same year, Alcoasand came out with their concept of regionalization of the major sewer lines. That's where we started to give them the trunk line. So the big trunk line where the 3 towns connect, a portion of Bridgeville connects to Alcoasand is owned independently. And ironically, it's unique, down Baldwin Street, the sewers are parallel. And when that sewer was put in 1955-56, it was at a higher elevation than the old Bridgeville sewer. So essentially, in the area in front of Old Calusi, the Kennel area, comes like the nexus, it crosses. But the borough sewer is 3 foot higher than the interceptor. So there was a plan that was put together at that same time that would connect most of Bridgeville out of C-5410, that's what that interceptor is, the numerical number for it, and put us into the old Bridgeville sewer. And then by doing that, it reduced a lot of sewer overflow in McLaughlin Run, and it met our 10% consent order standard. So it took the regulatory agencies off of our backs, and then it enabled the capacity in the pipe that our neighbors also met their 10% goal. So it was like this golden opportunity that 3 towns, by doing a small project on Baldwin Street, increased capacity in sewer that we were going to turn over to Alcoasand. Now fast forward, what the memo is going to say is over the past year and a half, detailed engineering was done, and the project has turned into much more than what Jake, the sewer engineer, originally anticipated. There's several more utility complex, and the slope up, the elevation isn't there, that he has to go back a couple hundred feet to get the pipe to flow appropriately. So the construction estimate was like $400,000, is now over $1 million. So we've been talking to Alcoasand well, how can we do this versus us do it? Because at the same time, Alcoasand regionalization is saying, just turn the sewer over to us, you don't have to do anything. But talking to the source flow reduction folks at Alcoasand, knowing that Alcoasand is doing large projects, you probably see it on TV where they're putting tunnels under each river.
Yep.
By the time that Alcoasand makes its way all the way up to the top of the watershed, where we're at the top, it's 20, 30 years out. So any improvements on McLaughlin Run isn't gonna happen unless we do it now before we turn it over. And we're very cognizant that on those severe wet weather days, we do still get basement backups in the vicinity of the nexus of the universe, you know, where the two come across. So it's imperative that we have a moral obligation to our neighbors to not just take the easy road and pass that thing over to Alcoasand. Like, we could do that tomorrow and be off the hook, but it doesn't solve those basements from flooding. It doesn't solve the surcharges that go within that line. So the regionalization, the source reduction folks at Alcoasand, we've been talking to them, is encouraging us to resubmit our project back for GROW funding. It's Alcoasand, an Alcoasand grant program that originally was going to fund this project at 40%. They're getting farther in the line of using up all their money, that they're looking for projects, and they're running out of good projects now because this is like cycle 12. So they know that this is so far down the line that they would ever get to it, and we're close to transferring it over. They're very confident after we do some re-engineering to show the source flow reduction at more quantitative numbers, that we could get a reimbursement rate almost at 80% versus 40%. So we have a memo going out to the 3 towns saying, hey, Bridgeville has been the lead. Bridgeville essentially has paid for all the engineering. They're going to reimburse us. There's a memorandum of understanding that these towns are on the hook. Everyone knows it. It's allocated to show how much was this. But we don't want to submit for reimbursement to Alcoasand under the 40% one. We want to wait a year and resubmit this time, or hopefully we'll be awarded this time next year. And then if that's the case, we would we would save more money off of it. What we would get back would be substantial. Our cost reimbursement would be higher, and that it would cost us less. So these projects here, you don't see being done because we're hoping to get that within that regionalization project. Next year, we have been very active of getting back into an O&M program. That's kind of where you see us doing televising and inspecting work, and then we line up a point repair project off of that as inspection. So we just completed 34,000 linear feet of inspection work first, second quarter of this year. The engineer is reviewing that right now, and he's in the works now to see how much needs lined. If you remember last year, we had a very big lining project in the borough, and a lot of that gets reimbursed through Alcoasand under that grant, and we've been holding off on that too, mainly trying to get more money back. But what we do each year with that inspection work, that enables us to do another point repair lining project, and we budget for another big lining project and another big CCTV project next year to keep whittling away at the borough. And it's very nice. We've been methodically taking a map and going. If you've seen us this year, it was essentially the whole west side of the borough was done. Now we worked up and did all the Bank Street properties, and now we're heading to essentially like the newer side of town, New York Street, and up that way. So that's in track for next year, and hopefully be out to bid very soon.
Hey, Joe, those reimbursements from the previous conversation you just had, I couldn't catch you. You didn't take a breath.
Yeah.
When are those expected to be reimbursed from the other?
That's 2 things. One, I'm asking to wait till next year because I could do it today.
Right, you could do 80%, and then it's less from them to get reimbursed.
Yes.
We're just holding the expense or that.
I'm going to hold it a year,
asset.
so it would be this time next year.
So does those 2 municipalities know that liability is out there?
That's what this memo has, and that's will be in your council packets tomorrow.
Just as the concern that if somebody at one of those boroughs had left, and then we say, hey, you need to write us a check. Just, I don't want, like when you started, Thomas had that whole bill they owed and nobody had record, and I brought it up to you the one day, and it was the first time you ever heard about it, so.
This isn't that case, because what we did with this is that there was a very formal memorandum of understanding that each town executed to show what they're responsible for.
So on their books, they have a liability of X
Correct.
anticipated in 2026 that they have to write a check.
Yes, and then the memo was given to them already, that you'll get a copy tomorrow, shows that.
Okay.
Yeah. And we haven't heard any opposition back from the neighbors. So if the neighbors come back,
Why would they? You're doing all the work for them.
they could do two things. They could do that, because like I said, is that you could easily just turn that sewer over tomorrow and not do any repairs and say, I don't care about that basement flooding, but I'm pushing the moral duty here as keeping the ship afloat.
Well, and they also have another area too.
There's other manholes that are surcharging on that line up at other municipal border lines. So they're cognizant of. And then we still budget to use the cog for the Vector truck for several weeks, and that's done with the Public Works Department. And the Public Works does point repairs and manhole adjustments and all that, and that's budgeted in the year as well. We do show the 55, the other half of that dump truck coming out of the sewer fund, and then the sewer fund is balanced at $2.3 million. If you look over the years, we've been able to run surpluses within this fund as well. The general fund, I'd like to go back a page. I missed on something. So go back to the page, the last page of general fund, the page right before the orange tab. I showed the general fund balance at 3.9 million. I was remiss to show where I end 2025. I estimate 2025 ends with a surplus of $145,000. If you look back over the past several years, we've run a surplus every year, and this surpluses have been enabling us to do capital improvements. Every year we transfer that bottom line surplus number to the capital project fund in August, and then when I get to the capital project fund and go over cash flow, you'll see that number resurrect again, and that allows us to start doing what people see for their tax dollars comes out of capital project fund. Everything else people just expect to take for granted, but like big steps, road being paved, park improvements, that's us doing running surpluses. Okay. So sewer fund, same thing. I anticipate a small surplus as well. And if that surplus comes in under, it essentially will be made up the following year when we get reimbursed from the neighboring towns under the big multi-municipal project. And I know it's going to be sad to see Joe leave, and Joe is going to leave a legacy of multi-municipal collaboration. And we really took a lead on a lot of multi-municipal collaborations that really go under the radar at the public level. But at the municipal level, our little village is a powerhouse in the area. Now, we took over the multi-municipal, look, these are $60 million operations up the street, and we ran the multi-municipal project for that. The flood authority, we run the flood authority out of here. So a lot of the multi-municipal stuff that we were able to resurrect, we do, and we kind of feel that moral obligation that we know when times get rough, our neighbors come and help us out, and we've got to find a way to help them back, and we do that, and it's kind of nice to keep that moving. So I feel like that's Joe's legacy, and I'm happy to put in the extra hours and all that in regard to that.
You can reschedule the Route 50 corridor meeting because of us. It was scheduled tonight.
Yeah, it's tonight. But it's really fun. It's unique. It's like the flood authority is like the Charters Creek from Bridgeville to Pittsburgh, and I don't know how it ever happened, but many managers before me, but when that board was established, the executive board was developed being the Upper St. Clair manager, the Bridgeville manager, and then there's an official that's elected.
Solicitors.
Yeah, correct. And then when Lori retired, I just started attending. And then at that time, Rich Ferris was the solicitor for the for the flood authority. Rich retired, and Rich did all the administrative side. Well, when Rich retired, kind of the brain drain happened on the administration. So I took over. I do all the bookkeeping. I do all the administrative side. So we run it all through here, where that used to be contracted and paid for. We volunteer those services and do it from here. And it's nice because how we can pick up the phone and ask so-and-so for stuff. It's through these networks we're doing by kind of rolling up our sleeves and doing a lot of dirty work. And like, we're doing flood projects in Pittsburgh, and it's being managed through Bridgeville, so it's kind of cool, but.
Whenever they wanna come up and do all the cleaning and all that stuff, by the time they got to us, it was out of money, so they had to start all over again.
Yeah.
And so, with you having your hands in it, at least you know where it's going and what's going on, so.
And it was nice that you said it, because they never had a budget. We budget with the flood authority now, and you can see where we got into unique capital projects where we allocate so much money now a year for mowing, so much here for clearing. And we've been rotating over the past couple of years where these clearing projects are big. They're $120,000. Mowing contracts are about $125,000. So I have a cash flow, like we had this conversation with them, that we flip-flop. And then like this year, we did a large clearing project in Pittsburgh, down from Thornburg down to that highway to nowhere kind of area down there. And then this year, they had a surplus that we were able to resume the mowing work that you saw done in Carnegie. And that's going back. And then next year, the budget supports another clearing project. If you saw last year, we did a clearing project from Collier, from Steen Road to the Presley Road Bridge in Presto. We're going to keep coming up the watershed. So next year is from Presley Road. Hopefully, we're going to get to Topgolf. So we're hoping within 3-4 more years, we got that entire project limits from Pittsburgh to Bridgeville cleared. And it's nice we have this nice cash flow that can support it. We enabled a fund balance that prepares for like another Hurricane Ivan, that if something bad happened, it can get us a decent small clearing project to clear the bridges and stuff open. So the flood authority has been, I enjoy it. It's been fun. And it's nice that all the municipalities that were participating, Pittsburgh's back in, they start paying their dues. They haven't paid their dues.
And that was the other problem.
Yeah, they're back. They pay their dues. They're contributing. They attend meetings. So
Thanks, Joe.
there's more people, but
But I'm just saying that
it's working.
it was the initiative to do that, because from what I remember all the time, they always ran out of money before they came too far up to Carnegie, and that was always like a thorn, that you were paying your money, but you didn't get anything from it.
And Bridgeville, it's amazing. It's like, I make sure I address it when we have our generals, like the general meeting each year. I make sure that Bridgeville, nothing's been done in Bridgeville for decades.
Yeah.
But Bridgeville is the biggest contributor for that project. Even though our dues is small, there's 2 billboards along 79 in Bridgeville that pay the flood authority an annual lease of about $90,000. And if it wasn't for the Bridgeville billboards, everyone's dues would be triple the amount. And the billboards in Bridgeville pay for the projects that I just talked about.
Yeah.
And we're always talking every month, we need to find more places for billboards, because that's how we do flood work. But if it wasn't for Bridgeville billboards, we wouldn't have anything.
Is Fred still?
Sorry, no, go ahead.
Is Fred still involved?
Fred's the chairman, yep. Yeah, so it's, Fred's the chairman, Joe's the engineer, and it's me and Matt.
I just want to go on record that you said Topgolf. I want to say that's in South Fayette.
Yes. What about it?
You said all the way up to Topgolf, and you said Bridgeville.
Stop at Bridgeville line.
Correct.
Yeah, but I just wanted to make it on record, Topgolf is in.
And we do the grant applications for the flood authority. We submitted, thinking about South Fayette, we submitted grant applications for flood work in South Fayette, and that was us doing that. So it's kind of neat.
Well, it's the scratch your back, I scratch.
That's how I see it. And we ask for favors a lot from people, and we deliver donuts at 7 in the morning. Sometimes don't go that far. So hoping that this
Continues, yeah.
correct. And
Well,
that's,
Matt Sarakowski always talks raise.
so it's working. All right, so now I'll go into garbage fund. That's the yellow tab. Garbage fund, if you remember when we awarded the county hauling contract 2 years ago, I put together a spreadsheet that I had on the board here that showed what the residents' rates would be for 5 years. It's matching that to a T. So they're going up next year about 6%, 7%, 6%, and the fee is going up $6 per quarter. So it's going from $77 a quarter to $83 a quarter, and it matches the spreadsheet we put together on day 1 of that contract. Next year is year 3 of a 5-year agreement with County Hall and Westmoreland Sanitary Landfill. Garbage revenue will increase by $45,000 based on that $6 increase. This is our only Bridgeville fee increase next year. So on the December agenda, when we present the fee resolution, the only thing that's changing is the garbage fee. And it's matching that original spreadsheet that put out when we knew these numbers for 5 years.
But we approved that back then when the contract.
Correct, so we knew it was coming.
When do you anticipate notifying the residents, or reminding them?
We'll just get it in the
Bill
bill.
and Mel?
When they get the bill in the mail in January.
December's meeting when we approve it.
Yeah, $6 is what
Yeah.
it would be. Correct. So overall, garbage fund is going up $46,000. The main thing is the increase on the fee.
Is there any other garbage collectors coming up to the surface? Because on this one, we didn't have
We had
anybody
two.
else. Yeah, Valley and,
Waste Management and was our only other bidder. We had a lot of people pick up bid packets, attend the pre-bid meeding, and showed interest.
And Waste Management didn't even submit for every option.
No.
Yeah, it was just one just to check the box.
They did
so.
the one that Scott Township went with and got the heat over with. You get a can. Remember
Yeah,
that?
you gotta fill the one can.
And pay for bulk pickup.
and then Valley was in and they bailed, they took on my lemon, I think.
No, County Hauling got Mount Lebanon.
Do we have any idea that County Hauling is going to go to a pickup garbage can?
No.
You got 3 years still.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
They
were the
do
ones-
some, the one thing has a pickup where it picks it up
I
along.
think it's a
and
recycle, yeah.
And it's along McLaughlin, there's many areas where there's parking at, but I know on McLaughlin, they pull up and flip my cans up.
Yeah.
And I only get pieces of the can back, but.
If you remember when we had that whole contract talks and everything, their whole business model was on the traditional garbage man, not the automated service. And Waste Management was going automated, and they didn't want the traditional
Right.
garbage man.
That was the nail in our coffin because we had to go with Noble and that. We didn't have a choice with.
No. We did have a choice, because if we went automated, that wouldn't went over well here at all. That would have went over worse than hiring County Hauling. It would have not gone.
Joe Street would have been opposite.
Yeah. That's
They
why
got high standards on them.
that means they have to park in the
Bricks.
alley.
Yeah. So now let's go through the expenditures on the garbage side.
Yeah.
Modest increase on the contribution back to the general fund budget for billing work. The program is the Freedom System, so we bill in-house. We do that all in-house, and bookkeeping's done in-house, and the billing software is in-house. That pays for that billing software. We pay for the household hazardous waste event. We do 2 events here. We do electronic event that don't cost us any money, and then we do the HHW, it's called Household Hazardous Waste, and that's where you can do paints and all the weird stuff you can't put out in your garbage. And the state does subsidize our costs with that. Originally, the grant was supposed to pay 50%, but lately the grants have been reimbursing almost 80% of those costs back to us. So it makes sense to do that. And we have 2 nice programs here that are in a nice cycle, and we could always do more. The pay for the brush and leaf program is paid out of this, and that's just the disposal costs at wood waste, and it's about $5,000 for all the wood waste and brush and leaves that are collected in the spring and the fall. We pay for the newsletter out of the garbage fund. That's the one that goes out with the garbage bill. The actual bigger newsletter, the borough guide, we pay for the postage out of the sewer fund on that, but we only pay the postage out of that, but the actual newsletter comes out of the garbage fund. Refuse, as you can see, the 7% increase to county hauling. There's 2,044 accounts, and we'll be paying $315.60. When you see, we have to pay for them to come to my house, so we're paying $315.60. What we bill is $332. The difference does pay for the HHW events the administration, the bad debt that it carries, and then the supplemental yard collection also paid out of that little difference. Bad debt is minor, it's about $6,000, and a lot of that is lien fees through Jordan Tax. In the past, we would take people to the magistrate for non-payment of garbage if you were like 2 quarters over. That was proven to be very ineffective. So now essentially, if you get a year behind, we put you on notice. After all those quarterly late fees that you ignored, don't pay, you get 2 final notices that your house is going to be liened. And then after no payment, no attempting to get on a payment plan, if you don't take any action on that, we lien your house. But out of the 2,044 accounts, we do have a very efficient operation when it comes to garbage billing. And this is kind of like the urban legend of garbage, because if you remember, it isn't like when the old days of sewer, when you don't pay your sewer bill, I shut your water off. It isn't like when I stop picking up your garbage, or you go put your garbage in your neighbors. It's like, what do you do? And that's why a lot of the towns say, we'll just put it in our millage rate so we don't have to worry about that. And if you followed all the garbage drama, you probably see where I was going with that. But here, in all essence, the 2,044 accounts, and then what we just leaned this quarter, Shoal prepares them, and I sign off on all of them. There was less than 30 accounts that got lien notices. So we're talking less than 1% that's even barely extreme delinquent. So it's a pretty good operation. And then when we lien your account, we essentially zero that account off, start you new, and then the lien account is at Jordan, and it keeps the books clean. So garbage fund is balanced. Garbage is $687,000, almost $700,000 operation. Next fund is the pink tab. This is capital project fund. I wanted to pass something out for you. So if you could take one and pass it down. So capital project fund is like our savings account. So we can't go off of like money in, money out. So I want to go over a cash flow spreadsheet I have on this one. So there's several projects that are identified for next year out of the capital project fund. And then in the narrative, when like it gets to like share with your neighbors and citizens when they read, they can see what we propose to do in the capital project fund. Mainly, it's to offset the road paving program. When we took out the loan in 2021, that was the first year in a while where we augmented and added to the liquid fuels money for paving. Historically, the borough would use its liquid fuels money for paving. Liquid fuels, we would get like $150,000 that would be our paving contract. But we were getting behind on what needed paved. So we've been adding to that every year. We've been running $300,000, $400,000 paving projects every year. And it's enabling us to get caught up now. We're now to the point where what needs paved are the big roads. They're going to take up most of that budget. So it's not a bad thing. It's kind of where we're at. So next year, I'm asking to continue doing the adding to the road budget of $165,000 to over $300,000 road project. Using the engineer's road rating table that he put together several years ago, essentially it's either Sarah Street, Sarah Street, Pennsylvania, Critchville, Missouri, that area. It's kind of where we need to focus on now. But we're at a point where I'm trying to coordinate with utilities. There's been a lot of water breaks on Pennsylvania Avenue. There was talk with them about them replacing lines on Pennsylvania. So I want to see where the water company is before we do that one. I got just noticed yesterday or 2 days ago that the gas company's coming up Sarah Street. Hallelujah. That will maybe enable me to take this money to do elsewhere. So usually I'm able to present to the road committee at this meeting, hey, this is our budget for next year on these roads, but I'm trying to coordinate utilities right now. So if it takes a couple months for us to do utility coordination, it enables us to stretch the budget. But nevertheless, we'll have a $300,000 road budget for next year. We have the project at Structures Park to redo the Shelter 1 that's under contract, and we have $205,000, half of it being reimbursed. We got $15,000 for the north end traffic engineering. Partnering with Collier Township, we sent out informal RFPs to the traffic engineering firms the two towns worked with. And Collier did put 15,000 in their budget as well, so both towns put 15,000 in their budget, us working together. And George confirmed that this week as well, because they're presenting their budget right now, and it's in there. The $11,000 to do the brick pointing work here in the borough building was put in back into this budget. And then there was two capital projects out of the police department that I put in here. One was additional intersection cameras at the intersection of Station Street and Washington Avenue. So there will be a borough traffic camera there, not an LPR, but a camera that will be hardwired here in the police station and their MDTs. And that will allow us to have intersection cameras up and down the whole pike, all the parks. And that was a big advancement over a couple years ago. So every park is under camera, every intersection is under camera, the borough building is under camera. And it's working.
Much needed. They help police with a lot of what goes on, following people in that, so.
It pays for itself. And it's something where our traffic police get hit by trucks a lot, and the cameras paid for themselves after one time getting hit, because the trucks hit them and run here, it catches them. So that's what that money is, and then it pays for the cage in Chad's old car to make Chad's old car essentially a full-time patrol car. On the next page, you'll see the 165 is augments the road paving for 300,000, and then we're under a contract with PennDOT for Chartier Street to do the remaining sidewalk work, and that's $32,000. So I wanted to go
Is
over
that
this.
expected this year?
I sent him an email today, so I was hoping to have an answer.
You should know as an asset.
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask it. I knew someone's going to ask it. I bet it's a 2027 project. I bet that gets kicked again. So I wanted to go over cash flow on the capital project fund. So this is like hot off the press, real numbers as of close of business today. So capital project fund has $415,000 in it, and there's a couple little things here that go forward with this. So you show what I project to get interest over the next year and a half, the transfer from the general fund to the capital project fund next year of $145,000. The one CD, I invested the budgetary reserve fund in CDs to get higher interest rates. And you remember like maybe longer now, middle of the year, we got an engineering bill for the flood project last year when they were doing all the core drilling, and it was like $38,000. We paid that bill out of the capital project fund versus paying it out of the flood budgetary reserve fund. When that CD comes up and expires, which should be the end of this month, that budgetary reserve fund has to reimburse the capital project fund the $38,000. So available funding for projects next year is $613,000. Now the red projects are projects that are committed or budgeted for. So you have the Chartier Street sidewalks. We're under agreement, signed, sealed, delivered, $32,000. The Bank Street ADA ramps, that one we were under agreement. They sent us one bill already for like $2,000, but they haven't billed us the rest. That's $98,000. The 2025 road program, which was nice, and this is where this sheet's different than what we reviewed for the Finance Committee. The road project for this year came in way under budget, mainly because there wasn't a lot of base repair that ended up needing to be done. And what needed done on Liberty Street, if you remember Liberty Street, those two sections were starting to slide down the hill, and they did extensive reconstruction. They went down 4 feet down and did backwalk. But they didn't have to go as wide, so that came down. So what was due, if you look at a budget actual report, it's almost like $90,000 is outstanding of the project. That project came in under budget, $93,000. So the only thing we have left to independent is a share under $19,000 that will be on this month's bill list. Chartiers Park Shelter 1, 205,800. The road paving for next year is $165. Police equipment's $9,000, and then the traffic engineering work I talked about is $15,000. So committed projects that we're already on the hook for is $543,000. Now some grants that are already under agreement that we need to get reimbursed for. The first one is the Greg Avenue Steps. It's in yellow because that number's been changed because we were able to get 100% versus 80%. So that added to that almost $57,000. That was free money we were able to get. So that number went up to the 230 mark, and I had to send some stuff over to him at the DCED today. So I'm hoping that by the end of this year that check's received. And then once we finish the Shelter One project, probably no later in the first quarter of next year, half of that gets reimbursed. So that's $333,000. So if you did nothing more other than what's budgeted, we'll end at Christmas next year at, well, I'm forecasting at 402, kind of in line with what we're at today. So it's like a wash. Now there's several projects that are, like if you remember when I started this whole conversation that we're in limbo for, that I applied for grants, but I didn't put in the budget because I have no idea where it is. But if it did come to light, we'll be able to make it happen. And it's essentially just two projects. One is the Charters Park field lighting project, and the latest estimate to do to replace the lighting on both fields is $555,000. But I've submitted 2 LSA grants. The state hasn't yet to do anything. I submitted a DCNR grant that would pay half, so if we did get it, it'd be $250,000, $300,000. I submitted a state park grant through the DCED, and then I submitted a state/county GEDF grant. So between them, that's 5 grants that I have pending for that project. I'm hoping that one of them is going to stick, and I'm hopeful because it got so much support from the players. We have our senator, our representative, our county council, our congresswoman, the BAA. Everyone has raised up their hand to support us. So hopefully, like, these budget issues get addressed and one of these projects come into light. So, and then if the stars align, it has happened to me in the past where multiple different funding sources get awarded for that project and then they match itself and it's a free ride. So that would be the ultimate light a candle in church and hope it works kind of deal. That's
Joe Power field lights, I like it.
that, it can happen. So that would be that would be
Light one light at a time.
yeah, that would be optimal. But worst case, that project, we didn't budget borough funds as if we're going to start paying for it because I have all these things in the works.
But your kids will have to play softball at that point, right?
I heard a thing. There was a thing on the radio. I like going to find a tuning, and it said this guy was saying that he tells his kids that baseballs are fruit so that they stay away from it. So he still has his Saturday. So,
Oh, that couldn't happen.
I never heard that until yesterday. Oh my God, I can tell Shane that one. That one's pretty good.
Do we have any idea what condition those lights are in?
It's bad.
Yes, that's the whole reason Shane started this.
Yeah, it's bad. It needs done.
How many more years do you think you have?
I'm not guessing on that.
I think we're in the
Nobody
negative.
answer.
We're on borrowed time.
We are, so the
nice
parts are obsolete.
Nice
Everything
one should be all LED, so it save us
Right.
on our electric bill, that'll help
Oh, big.
back up,
It's big money on it.
They make some really cool lighting anymore that do consider everything. They have up lights too, that it'd be great. I mean, if you see them out there. But no, actually, compliments to the church league that's down there because we had an Upper St. Clair electrician that was down when we were piecemealing what was fried in there from one of the last floods. And everything's just soaked, on the electrical side. So the whole thing will be nice. And I expect change orders, how that goes. Without knowing, it's been 70-some years underwater, so.
And this project with new poles and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping something works. If it doesn't, these don't come through, we're going to have to find a way that we face it and start budgeting for it ourselves.
couple at a time.
Correct. And then,
Take down the pole with the mark for the flood, you have to make sure you put that mark back up.
yeah,
That's in there. Yeah, we got it.
Can it spray paint?
Absolutely.
we can swing that.
No.
We pay for out of sewer fund, it gotta be green. Green one called paint. And then you have the flood project itself, and we have a lot of grant applications that are submitted with that. And we're starting to be creative on submitting phases of the phase 1. So we have a $1 million grant that we got 2 years ago that is going to be expiring in the next year and a half. So we have to get a contract extension or one of these other grants come in, and then that pays for the culvert. If you remember me talking at the last council meeting, we are on track to receive $712,000 from FEMA for the culvert. And the culvert's estimated at $1.8 million. And then if that's 712, next year may be the culvert project. We don't know yet. And then we submitted a gaming grant for the culvert to match that project. We submitted flood grants through the DCD. We submitted stormwater grants to the DCD that's still pending. And then we have all the people trying to send out lifelines to resurrect the big 5.31, and that's the earmark and then the governor's office. So,
Is there a chance that those could be done at the same time?
okay. Originally, the plan was that all this gets done at the same
Yeah.
time. I honestly feel there's a chance that there is so much attention to this project now, and people are calling the right people that if they do return the brick money and there's other grants come through, the whole
Ready to
thing's
go.
paid for. And that was what we were on track to. And then the whole thing just went belly up.
See, getting you on TV was the right thing to do.
It worked. It worked. So hopefully we'll know more by
Other
Christmas.
communities use your same profile to get stuff they need to do from the same.
Yeah,
So,
it's good.
yeah.
That's what we want.
Thanks to Jason Taylor. KDK.
So, and then the other project down here in the pink, they're so far down that maybe in 5 years, we're starting to talk, and that's about starting to put money aside for the north end. We gotta find out how we're gonna do north end. And then there's also goals, like, if we're doing the north end, let's finish streetscape in the south side. It's like the road's done, let's just make it pretty now. So we need to start thinking about that. So capital project fund, but it has a decent funding strategy that doesn't take the bank account dry. It kind of uses it back to where we're at right now. And it keeps that circular motion, and it enables us to do a lot of good within the community. And this is the stuff that the people see and now honestly expect. Going on to the last page. Oh, here, for example, right before this tab, I didn't realize I went in here.
Yeah.
So you can see before the road project came in under budget, we were going to end the general fund, end the capital project at $331,000. But with that paving project coming in under budget, it enables us to come back at 402. So that was a good news to show where we're going with that. And then the last one is the capital, or not, the liquid fuels fund, and it's rather boring. It's just $139,000 that we use in giving out, and we cut one check for paving contractor each year with this. That's what we do with this fund. And then that's what I'm asking that we continue next year. And when you go to the actual narratives, it goes in detail of how many miles of road we have, what streets we paved, and what road budgets we have in the prior years. In the back of your actual book is the legislative actions that we need to be taking over the next month. One is after tonight, and there's any other little things that need to be addressed. I'd like to ask for a motion to authorize the display and advertisement of this. And then at our December meeting, we would adopt several resolutions. The first resolution is our tax ordinance. As the taxes aren't going up next year, it can be adopted by resolution and not ordinance. The actual resolution that adopts the budget, and then the resolution for the sanitary sewer rates, and it goes in detail to outline the Alcoa increase, and the borough stays the same. You'll see two other resolutions on your December agenda that aren't in this packet. One is the fee resolution. That fee resolution will essentially only have one adjustment, and that would be the garbage fee. Everything else will be the same. And then we'll have the fee resolution, or not the fee resolution, the resolution that sets the non-collective bargaining agreements wages for the following year. And then after that, that's a wrap, and we take it into 2026.
So you need a motion to
Advertise.
advertise. I'll make a motion. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have one more vote. Who thought Joe Carr did an excellent job? All in favor?
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Anybody have any new business? Bruce,
I make a motion, we adjourn.
can I have a second?
Second.